Hey everyone, this is Rishi here, and I'm excited to show you welcome pop-ups that capture zero-party data. And what we see a lot is people say, hey, 10% off, give us your email address. And that's great because it does increase the number of emails that you get. What we're trying to do now next is get one more piece of data and not just the email address. So imagine if you were a coffee and tea store, imagine if you knew that, hey, Rishi at gmail.com also loves coffee. So let's make sure we don't send them any tea emails. For me, I don't like tea. I just want to hear about coffee. I have a lot of friends that like tea. They don't really want to hear about coffee. So I thought this would be a perfect example of capturing that data and then being able to segment out. So in this video, I'm going to show you how to create a zero-party data pop-up that captures the email, as well as that one piece of data that you can segment. And then I'm going to show you in Klaviyo how to build out those segments and then kind of create unique emails based on it. So it's gonna be a short, sweet video. I'm gonna walk you through this. So I took a shortcut here. I actually, you can just go to boxes, create new box. I picked this theme. It doesn't really matter what theme you pick. I just created this theme right here. And this theme by default was a sidebar. I wanted to make it a pop-up. So I went here, I went to box settings, and I clicked our Lightbox pop-up widget box type. And I just added 3 buttons. I modified the text a little bit. You can even say like get 15% off, for example. Of course, you can enter in all your fonts and crazy colors if you'd like. I'm going to keep it super simple for this video and not really worry too much about the design, but you can also add like a border and all that good stuff. What I like about what I did here is tell us what you love more. You're almost enticing them to give you up an answer. And so that's kind of fun. It's like if you want to get someone to talk to you, you want to ask a question that excites them. So this is a good one. Tell us what you love more, coffee or tea. And so I have this coffee button, and I just it's a drag and drop thing. So I had coffee right here, I added tea. And then, of course, there are people that love both. So I put all things caffeine. And so then I added a step 2. So I actually just duplicated this page. I duplicated it. And then I said we're going to go to extra page 1, and we're going to capture the email address here. So I have this email address field. And then I went to our forms section. I'm going to say, look, I'm going to submit the form. And I made the button kind of something where it's kind of intuitive, submit and get the 10% off. So they know they have to submit their email address to actually get the 10% off. And I'm going to remove this text field here. And so now it's just like, hey, get 10% off. And maybe I can add some more text here, but I'm not going to do that. So we have step 1, which is get 15% off. And so now what we need to do is we need to make sure we're collecting that data. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to our named custom fields right here. I'm going to open that in a new tab. And I'm going to add a new field. And we're going to call this, caffeine option or favorite beverage. Beverage. And it can be anything. And then we're going to call this, and this can also be anything, but I like to do Digio underscore favorite beverage, like that. And I'm going to make this a text field. Now, the only other thing that I want to point out is there's also a list field. Maybe you want to make this multi-select, so you can select coffee, tea, and all things. Now, in this case, you wouldn't want to because we have that all things, but maybe you just have coffee and tea, and you want to make it a multi-select. That's also possible in Digio. And that way you'd want it to be a list. So we can pass coffee and tea to that custom field that we're creating right here. So I'm going to call this a text field since it's just one select, and I'm going to save this. So now we have this custom field, and you can name them whatever you want here. You can have as many name fields as you'd like. But this is what we're going to do is we're going to store that, whatever they click on, we're going to store that in Digio favorite beverage, and then we're going to pass that data to Klaviyo. So now I'm going to come in here. I'm going to come back in here. And we're going to save this as a draft. And since I did it in a new tab, it's not going to show up right away. So I got to reload it. And so now what I'm doing is I'm going to click on coffee. And I'm in the button section. We're going to say the button action. Now that name field is going to show up here. So we're going to say that that's favorite beverage. And we're going to pass the word coffee to it like that. Do the same thing here for tea, also in favorite beverage. I'm going to say tea. And I'm going to say all things caffeine. I'm going to say everything. So now you have it. So now you have, this is the value that's going to be sent into Klaviyo. So it's going to be coffee, tea on that user profile. So then I click this, they go to enter their email. When we pass in their email, we're also going to pass in coffee if they pick coffee. All right, so I'm going to save this as a draft. And I have a thank you page here too. You can add in things like a coupon code. I haven't really designed it. I probably want to duplicate it and make it a thank you page. haven't really designed it, but you could display the coupon code. You could say, hey, a coupon code is in your inbox now. We can, pass a dynamic coupon code as well. But I'm not going to talk about the thank you page too much on this video. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to have to set up the Klaviyo integration. So all we have right now is the pop-up, and now we got to make sure all the data goes to Klaviyo. Now I'm going to go to current integrations. I've already authenticated our Klaviyo account. So I have in our Klaviyo section, we actually have my account authenticated. So if you don't see an authentication here, just click add new connection and OAuth into Klaviyo with us. And what I'm going to do now is I want to do a few things. I want to subscribe that email to a list, and I want to create them to a profile. So I want to add them to a master list as well as add them to a profile. So I'm going to use our subscribe to list, which does both. If you don't want them to add to a list, you will just want to do the Klaviyo profile capture. Now, I'm not sure why you'd ever really want to do that. So you always typically want to trigger an email right away after perm submission. And we like to leverage a single opt-in as well on the list level. So in Klaviyo, make sure you go into the list and make it single opt-in. So anyway, I'm going to create a pipeline here, and I'm going to pick my list. I'm going to call it our main list, and I'm going to select the box. I named it ZPD pop-up. ZPD stands for zero party data pop-up, and I'm going to call this, ZPD pop-up, and goes to main list. And this is just kind of foreshadowing here. It's going to go to different segments. This is just a note for me. Now, no one else sees this except me. It's kind of an internal note for me. That's the name. I'm going to create this pipeline. All right, great. So now we have this pipeline created. And so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to save this. I'm going to go back, and I'm going to add this integration. And so there's two ways to add an integration in Digio. One is right actually in the editor. You can come in here, or you can actually on the pop-up level, on the box level, you can add this in. Notice that it already automatically added. I had another integration tied to it when I was testing things out. I just removed that. And so now we have this integration, this pipeline that I set up, so it goes to Klaviyo. All right, so now let's test this out. I'm going to go back in here, and I'm going to preview it. And I'm going to click on coffee, and then I'm going to enter in a test email. So Rishi, I like to use my timestamp 1247 at digio.com, and I'm going to submit it. And this data should in real time go to Klaviyo. So let's log into our Klaviyo account. We're going to go to list here, and I'm going to go to my main list. And here it is. So Rishi 1247 at digio.com. It's on our main list, so we can trigger an email automatically. And what you'd want to do is you want to make sure that the single opt-in is turned on. This allows you to trigger an email right away for that list. And the reason why we like to do that is, especially for quizzes as well as zero party data pop-ups, we do a lot of bot detection. If they're automatically opted in, they can get the email, and you can increase the click-through rate on that first email. So that is our typical recommendation. Now, what I also want to show you is that if you look at this profile now, you will see that Digio favorite beverage is coffee. So there you have it. We have their email address, they're subscribed, and they have this coffee value and Digio favorite. Now you could change this to, remember when in the name custom fields, I kind of named this whatever I want it to be. So you could change this to something else. And then this is the value that we're setting on the button. So now let's create a segment based on this. So what I love about Klaviyo and most ESP tools is I can create a new segment, and I could say, I'm going to call this coffee. And you could say properties about someone, and you could say, hey, Digio favorite beverage, and we could say coffee. And I can create this dynamic segment. And then I can go back in and create another segment based on tea. Now now you can actually trigger emails based on segments if they're coffee or tea, and change the welcome email that you send. Maybe you have an email that has 3 or 4 coffee products. If they click coffee, and all subsequent emails can be about coffee. Hey, take 10% off on all coffee products. Now I want to take a different step now. So now that we have this data in Klaviyo, here's where it gets even more exciting. You can go back into your Digio account, and you can now create a pop-up like this. So I could hit create here. And if you are a Klaviyo customer, we can actually read that data. So this is a personalized member promo pop-up, and you can rename it to whatever you'd like. And I could come into our conditions right here and say, look, only target, let's remove all these standard rules that we have. And I could say, look, only show this to people on the coffee segment. So we could say, hey, coffee drinkers, 10% for you and you only, because this is reading from Digio as well. So there's two things that are happening here. You can personalize your on-site experience now with this data with Digio, and you could personalize your email and SMS experience based on this. So super excited for you guys to check this out. Let me know what you think.